August 7, 1944, 3 kilometers south of Morta, France, the Pride, on darkness shattered with an explosion that seemed to come from hell itself. Oberst Lieutenant Klaus Richter, commanding a platoon of Panther tanks from the 2nd SS Panzer Division, D. Reich, had just witnessed something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Through the morning mist rolling across the Norman hedge, a shape emerged that defied every category in German military intelligence manuals. It wasn't a tank. It wasn't a self-propelled gun. It was a farmer's tractor, an American John Deere Model D, moving at barely 15 mph across an open field. Mounted on its reinforced chassis was a 5.38 caliber naval cannon, the same weapon that equipped American destroyers hunting German U-boat in the Atlantic. The absurdity lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then the tractor fired. The naval round designed to penetrate submarine hulls at ranges of 10.0 yards struck Art, Orr's lead Panther at point-blank range of 400 m. The 44-ton tank didn't just explode, it disintegrated. The turret, weighing 11 tons, separated from the hull and landed 30 m away. The crew of 5 never knew what hit them. What Richter couldn't know, what none of the German commanders attacking through Morta understood, was that they had just encountered the most unlikely weapon system of World War II. Born from desperate necessity, agricultural ingenuity, and American improvisation, the gun motor carriage M12, nicknamed the Devil Tractor by terrified German soldiers, represented everything the Wehrmacht feared most about American warfare. Not technological sophistication, not superior tactics, but the terrifying ability to turn anything, even farm equipment, into devastating weapons of war. The story began 6 months earlier in a naval shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. By January 1944, American destroyer production had created an unexpected problem. The Philadelphia Naval Shipyard had stockpiled over 800 surplus 5.38 caliber Mark 12 naval guns. These weapons, each weighing 6,200 lb without the mount, represented $30 million of manufacturing capacity sitting idle, while the Navy shifted to newer 5.54 caliber weapons. Captain Thomas Morton of the Navy's Bureau of Ordnance faced a bureaucratic nightmare. The guns couldn't be scrapped due to their value. They couldn't be stored indefinitely due to warehouse limitations. And they couldn't be shipped to the Pacific, where newer weapons were already deployed. In a meeting that would change armored warfare history, Morton joked to Army Ordnance Liaison Major Robert Henderson, maybe the Army could mount these on jeeps and call them tank destroyers. Henderson didn't laugh. The Tank Destroyer Force, established in 1941 under the command of Lieutenant General Andrew Davis Bruce, had been searching for mobile, hard-hitting anti-tank platforms. The M10 Wolverine and M18 Hellcat had proven effective, but doctrine called for even more mobile platforms that could be rapidly deployed in fluid combat situations. What Henderson recognized was that naval guns offered advantages no existing Army weapon possessed. The 5.38 fired 55 lb armor, piercing rounds at 600 ft pers, generating kinetic energy exceeding any tank gun in the German arsenal. At 400 m, the standard naval armor-piercing round could penetrate 170 mm of steel plate. German Panther tanks, the most heavily armored medium tanks in the Wehrmacht, had 80 mm of frontal armor, sloped at 55 degrees. The mathematics were undeniable. A naval gun could destroy any German tank from any angle at any range. The challenge was mobility. Naval mounts weighed over 20,000 lb, far too heavy for truck chassis. Purpose: built tracked vehicles would require months of development that the impending invasion of France didn't allow. Henderson needed a solution immediately. The answer came from an unexpected source. John Whittaker, a civilian engineer from Moline, Illinois, worked for Deere and Company before joining the War Production Board. Whittaker had spent 20 years designing agricultural equipment, including heavy-duty tractors capable of pulling mulch, on plows through tough soil. When Henderson explained the requirement, mounting a 3-ton gun on a mobile platform with minimal development time, Whittaker's response was immediate. Use a tractor. The proposal seemed insane. Tractors were civilian equipment, slow, ungainingly, designed for plowing fields, not combat. But Whittaker's logic was undeniable. The John Deere Model D, America's best-selling tractor since 1923, featured a reinforced frame designed to handle extreme loads. Its two-cylinder engine, producing 42 horsepower at 900 revolutions per minute, provided massive low-end torque. Most critically, over 160,000 Model D tractors existed across America. The production infrastructure was established, parts were standardized, and mechanics nationwide knew how to maintain them. On February 14, 1944, the first prototype assembled at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland combined components that shouldn't have worked together. A 1942 John Deere Model D tractor purchased from a farmer in Iowa for $350. A 5.38 caliber Mark 12 naval gun valued at $37,500. A reinforced steel platform designed by Whittaker, fabricated in 72 hours by workers at Bethlehem Steel. A hydraulic recoil system adapted from captured German anti-tank guns. The total cost, excluding the gun, which was already paid for, was $1,200. The first test firing occurred on February 20th. Engineering officers predicted catastrophic failure. The tractor's frame would crack. The recoil would flip the vehicle backward. The gun mount would shear off. Colonel James Morrison, commanding Aberdeen's test division, stood behind protective barriers as the crew loaded a 55 lb armor-piercing round. The tractor fired. The recoil drove the vehicle backward 6 ft. The frame held, the mount held. The gun immediately cycled for the next round. At 400 meters, the naval shell penetrated through both sides of a captured Panther tank, destroying the engine block, transmission, and turret ring in a single catastrophic hit. At 800 m, it punched through a Tiger tank's frontal armor, something American 76 mm tank guns could barely achieve at point-blank range. Colonel Morrison's report to Army Ground Forces Headquarters was succinct. The system works, it shouldn't, but it does. Recommend immediate production. By March 1st, the gun motor carriage M12 entered emergency production. The Army ordered 500 units for deployment before D-Day. The production miracle that followed demonstrated American industrial capacity at its most creative. Deere and Company's factories in Moline, Illinois, and Waterloo, Iowa continued producing standard Model D tractors. These were shipped to conversion facilities at Rock Island Arsenal, where civilian workers, many of them women, installed the gun mounts in an assembly process requiring just 16 hours per vehicle. The naval guns arrived from Philadelphia by rail, 3 per freight car. Recoil systems came from Detroit. Armor plates, minimal protection for the crew, were fabricated at Gary, Indiana. The logistics coordinated tractors from Iowa, guns from Pennsylvania, recoil systems from Michigan, and armor from Indiana, all converging at Rock Island for final assembly. By May 1944, production reached 14 Devil tractors daily. The workforce, understanding they were building weapons for the invasion of Europe, worked 12-hour shifts 6 days per week. Quality control was fanatical. Every gun was test-fired. Every hydraulic system was pressure-tested. Every tractor engine was run for 4 hours under load. The specifications of the finalized M12 gun motor carriage defied conventional military vehicle categories. Weight 8, 400 lb combat loaded. Maximum speed 15 mph on roads, 8 mph cross-country. Range 120 mi on 12 gallons of gasoline. Crew 4 men, commander, gunner, loader, driver. Main armament, 5.38 caliber naval gun with 30 rounds of ammunition. Secondary armament, none. Armor 12 mm steel plate front-only protection against small arms and shrapnel. The ammunition load outmixed naval and purpose. designed Army rounds, 20 armor, piercing Mark 14 naval rounds for anti-tank work. 8 high-explosive Mark 15 naval rounds for bunkers and fortifications. 2 white phosphorus rounds for marking targets. The armor, piercing rounds designed to penetrate submarine pressure hulls, could defeat any German armor. The high-explosive rounds designed to destroy surface ships created blast effects that could level buildings. The first M12 gun motor carriages arrived in England on June 2, 1944, 4 days before D-Day. The 617th Tank Destroyer Battalion received 36 Devil tractors at a depot near Southampton. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Walter Abrams, a former farmer from Nebraska, understood agricultural equipment intimately. His reaction upon seeing the vehicles was recorded in the battalion diary. "They sent us tractors with naval guns. Either someone in Washington has a sense of humor or we're about to change how anti-tank warfare works." Training proceeded at emergency pace. Crews learned that the Devil tractor required completely different tactics than conventional tank destroyers. The vehicle couldn't outrun German tanks like the M18 Hellcat. It couldn't absorb hits like the M10 Wolverine. Its survival depended on 3 principles: prepositioning in concealed locations, first shot kills at medium range, and immediate displacement after firing. The gun's naval heritage provided unexpected advantages. Naval fire control emphasized rapid target acquisition and quick firing. Crews trained to engage targets within 10 seconds of identification fire 3 rounds in 30 seconds, then displaced to alternate positions. The hydraulic recoil system designed for shipboard use allowed sustained fire rates exceeding purpose-built tank destroyers. June 6, 1944, D-Day. The 617th Tank Destroyer Battalion landed at Omaha Beach on June 9, D+3, after initial German resistance had been suppressed. Their 36 Devil tractors rolled off landing craft into a combat environment where their unique capabilities would prove decisive. The Norman Hedge, ancient earthen walls, topped with dense vegetation, created perfect firing positions for the M12. The tractors could be driven directly into hedge rows, their low profile and agricultural appearance making them nearly invisible. German reconnaissance units repeatedly mistook them for abandoned farm equipment. Fatal errors when the 5 guns opened fire. If you're finding this story of American innovation and improvisation as fascinating as we are, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We dive deep into the untold stories of World War II, exploring the moments where ingenuity changed history. Don't miss out on these incredible accounts. Subscribe now. The first combat engagement occurred on June 12th near Carrington. A German counterattack by elements of the 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division employed 15 Panzer IV tanks and 8 Stug G3 assault guns. The attack developed along the Carrington-Perry Highway, advancing in column formation toward American positions. Staff Sergeant Raymond Mitchell positioned his M12 in a hedge overlooking the highway at 350 m range. His gunner, Corporal James O'Brien, had worked in Boston shipyards before the draft and understood naval gunnery. As the lead Panzer IV approached, Mitchell gave the order. The first naval round struck the Panzer IV's turret at a slight downward angle. The 55 lb armor, piercing shell traveling at 600 ft per second, penetrated the 50 mm turret roof, detonated inside the fighting compartment, and blew the tank apart from within. The explosion was so violent that witnesses reported seeing the tank's engine block launched 30 ft into the air. O'Brien fired 7 more rounds in 90 seconds, destroying 3 more Panzer IVs and 2 Stio G3s before Mitchell ordered displacement. The M12 reversed into deeper hedgerow cover and repositioned 200 m south. By the time German forces located the original firing position, the Devil tractor was engaging from a completely different angle. The German after-action report from 17th SS Panzer Grenadier Division described the engagement with confusion and fear. Encountered unknown enemy anti-tank weapon, extreme penetration capability, vehicle type unidentified, appears to be civilian tractor mounting heavy caliber naval gun, 8 tanks destroyed in under 2 minutes. Weapon withdrawals and repositions with agricultural vehicle speed cannot be effectively countered with standard tactics. News of the Devil tractor spread rapidly through German units in Normandy. Soldiers who glimpsed the unlikely weapon system reported them with disbelief mixed with terror. The psychological impact of being killed by farm equipment wielding battleship-grade firepower proved devastating to German morale. Oberg writer Hans Müller captured Neersen. Low in July provided interrogators with testimony that revealed the German perspective. We called them Teufel tractor Devil tractors. They looked harmless like farm equipment, abandoned in fields. Then they would fire, and our tanks would explode. The sound was different from other American guns, deeper, more powerful. We learned to fear any tractor we saw, but by then it was too late. The M12's effectiveness stemmed from the fundamental mismatch between German expectations and American execution. Wehrmacht doctrine assumed all effective anti-tank weapons would be purpose-built military vehicles. Tank destroyers should be tracked, armored, and easily identifiable. The concept that Americans would mount destroyer-grade weapons on civilian tractors didn't exist in German tactical planning. This cognitive gap proved fatal. German reconnaissance identified M12 positions as abandoned farm equipment. German tank commanders ignored them as non-threats. German artillery didn't prioritize them for counter fire. By the time German units recognized double tractors as legitimate threats, they had usually lost multiple tanks. The Battle of Saint-Lô in July 1944 demonstrated the M12 at peak effectiveness. The 617th Tank Destroyer Battalion, reinforced to 48 Devil tractors deployed in depth throughout the Hedro country surrounding the city. German forces attempting to reinforce Saint-Lô's defenders had to advance through killing zones where concealed M12 guns waited in perfect ambush positions. On July 18th, Panzer Division attempted to break through American lines north of Saint-Lô. The division, considered among Germany's elite armored formations, employed 63 operational Panthers and 38 Panzer IVs. They advanced in a coordinated attack designed to overwhelm American positions through superior armor and firepower. The Devil tractors destroyed 41 German tanks in 6 hours. The engagement, studied extensively in post-war tactical analysis, revealed the weapon system's advantages in static defensive operations. Prepositioned in hedge rows with clear fields of fire, camouflaged to appear as agricultural equipment. The M12 crews waited until German tanks approached to point-blank range before opening fire. Lieutenant Robert Jameson commanded a platoon of 4 Devil tractors positioned along a 200-meter frontage. His after-action report described the engagement with clinical precision. German armor advanced in staggered column at 1,300 hours, allowed lead elements to close to 200 m before engaging. First salvo destroyed 3 Panthers simultaneously. German forces attempted to suppress our positions with return fire, but we had already displaced, re-engaged from alternate positions at 300 m, destroyed 5 additional Panthers and 2 Panzer IVs before German attack. Lost cohesion, total engagement time, 14 minutes, friendly casualties, none. Panzer Lehr Division's war diary recorded the battle from the German perspective with barely concealed despair. Encountered concentrated enemy anti-tank defenses of unprecedented lethality. Weapons believed to be heavy naval guns mounted on tracked or wheeled platforms. Penetration capability exceeds all known anti-tank weapons, cannot effectively engage due to weapons' rapid displacement capability. Division combat strength reduced 40%. Attack suspended. Recommend immediate withdrawal. The naval gun's ballistic characteristics created effects German tankers had never experienced. standard anti-tank rounds. Even the German 88 mm relied on kinetic energy to penetrate armor. The 5-in naval rounds combined kinetic penetration with high explosive filler, creating catastrophic internal damage, even on non-penetrating hits. Panthers struck by M12 fire often suffered catastrophic ammunition explosions, turret separations, or total structural failure. German tank crews developed superstitious fears about the Devil tractors. Reports circulated of tractors that couldn't be destroyed, guns that never missed, American farm equipment possessed by demons. While obviously false, these rumors revealed the psychological impact of facing weapons that defied understanding. Feld Otto Schneider, a Panther tank commander with the 9th Panzer Division, survived an encounter with an M12 near Argentine in August. His testimony, recorded at a P interrogation center, captured the existential terror. Our Panther was the best tank in the world. 80 mm of sloped armor, 75 mm gun. We had destroyed dozens of American Shermans. Then we encountered the Devil tractor. It looked like something from a farm. Old, slow, ridiculous. My commander laughed and ordered the gunner to destroy it. Before we could fire, it fired first. The round went through our frontal armor like paper. The explosion killed everyone except me. I was thrown clear when the turret blew off. That farm tractor destroyed the best tank Germany ever built in a single shot. By August 1944, German intelligence had compiled detailed reports on the M12. The assessments forwarded to Panzer Group West Headquarters revealed growing concern about American improvisation capabilities. Enemy employs 5-in naval guns mounted on agricultural tractors' vehicles, designated M12 gun motor carriage. Approximately 200 units confirmed in Normandy sector. Weapon characteristics. Penetration exceeds 170 mm at 400 meters. Rate of fire 3 to 4 rounds per minute. Mobility limited to 15 km per hour. Armor protection minimal. The report concluded with a warning that would prove prophetic. The M12 represents a category of American weapon development we cannot match. The conversion of civilian industrial capacity to military application with minimal modification. The enemy possesses thousands of agricultural tractors. They possess thousands of surplus naval guns if they choose to produce M12 units at scale. Our armored forces will face weapons against which we have no effective counter. The prediction proved accurate. By September 1944, Rock Island Arsenal had produced 873 M12 gun motor carriages. Production accelerated to 22 units daily. The Army formed 12 additional tank destroyer battalions equipped exclusively with Devil tractors, deploying them across the European theater. The M12's success triggered a wave of similar improvisation. The Navy, recognizing that surplus naval guns could be militarized, began developing the M40 gun motor carriage, mounting the same 5-in 38 on an M4 Sherman tank chassis. The Marine Corps experimented with mounting 3-in 50 caliber naval guns on half-tracks. The British, observing American results, began adapting their own naval weapons for ground use. Operation Cobra, the breakout from Normandy in late July, deployed Devil tractors in offensive roles for the first time. Previous engagements had been defensive, using the M12's ability to preposition in ambush. Cobra required mobile anti-tank support for rapidly advancing infantry and armor. The solution demonstrated American tactical flexibility. M12 units were assigned to advance behind the initial assault waves, positioning in captured towns and villages to defend against German counterattacks. The slow speed that limited offensive use became an advantage in defensive deployment. Devil tractors could be rapidly impaced in buildings, behind walls, or in rubble, creating instant fortified positions that could defeat any German armor. During Cobra's first 48 hours, M12-equipped tank destroyer battalions destroyed 117 confirmed German tanks, while losing only 9 Devil tractors, an exchange ratio exceeding 12:1. The losses occurred primarily to artillery and air attack, rarely to direct tank engagement. The M12's minimal armor made it vulnerable to indirect fire, but German forces struggling to survive American bombardment rarely had artillery available for counter-battery missions. The advance through France demonstrated the M12's versatility beyond anti-tank work. The naval high-explosive rounds proved devastating against fortified positions. German strong points that would require hours of artillery preparation to reduce could be neutralized by a single M12 firing naval bombardment ammunition. At Brest, the heavily fortified port city, M12 units supported the infantry assault by conducting direct fire missions against concrete bunkers. The naval guns designed to engage hardened ship structures could penetrate 2 ft of reinforced concrete. German positions that had resisted weeks of aerial bombardment fell to Devil tractors firing at point-blank range. Major General Troy Middleton, commanding Millau Corps during the Brest siege, praised the weapons system in his official report. The M12 gun motor carriage has proven invaluable in reducing fortified positions. Naval high-explosive rounds achieve effects that would otherwise require heavy artillery or air support. The weapon's mobility, though limited, allows rapid repositioning to engage multiple targets. Recommend expanded production and deployment. This brings us to another critical point in our story. The Devil tractor's impact went far beyond just battlefield effectiveness. It represented a fundamental challenge to how warfare was conducted. If you're enjoying this deep dive into one of World War II's most unusual weapons, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. We bring you these forgotten stories of innovation and courage that changed history. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of history enthusiasts. The autumn of 1944 brought new challenges as Allied armies approached Germany's borders. The Wehrmacht, fighting with increasing desperation, committed its remaining panzer reserves and counteroffensives designed to delay the inevitable. These operations, the Ardennes offensive being the most significant, concentrated German armor in ways that created target-rich environments for M12 units. The Battle of the Bulge, Hitler's last major offensive in the West, began on December 16, 1944. The 617th Tank Destroyer Battalion, still equipped with 42 operational Devil tractors, defended positions around Bastonia. The battalion's war diary recorded the opening hours of the German assault, with professional detachment masking underlying tension. December 16, 0530 hours, German artillery barrage commenced along entire divisional front. 0615 hours, enemy armor identified advancing from eastern approaches. Estimated strength company plus Panthers and Panzer IV. All M12 units ordered to prepared positions. First engagement 0642 hours. The engagement that followed demonstrated the M12's defensive capabilities under the worst possible conditions. Heavy fog, limited visibility to less than 200 m. German armor advanced in overwhelming numbers. American forces, surprised and initially disorganized, fell back under pressure. The Devil tractors prepositioned in the towns and villages the Germans had to capture became immovable obstacles. Sergeant First Class Michael O'Malley commanded an M12 positioned in a destroyed building in the village of WWII. His crew had reinforced their position with rubble and debris, creating a fortified firing position with a 60 degrees re-arc of fire covering the main road. As German Panthers advanced through morning fog, Ollie's gunner, Corporal Stephen Blake, engaged at extreme close range. The first Panther appeared at 75 m, so close that Blake could see the commander's face through the cupola. The naval round struck the Panther's glacis plate at nearly perpendicular angle. At this range, the kinetic energy was so extreme that the shell punched completely through the tank, exited through the rear armor, and continued another 100 meters before impacting a building. Blake fired 11 more rounds in 3 minutes, destroying 6 Panthers before the German attack withdrew. The M12's position took multiple hits from German return fire, but the improvised fortification protected the crew. When relief forces reached Longby 36 hours later, they found O'Malley's Devil tractor still operational, surrounded by destroyed German armor. Across the Bulge battlefield, similar engagements occurred at dozens of locations. The M12 units assigned to defend key crossroads and villages created defensive strong points that German armor couldn't bypass or reduce. The 5-in naval guns outranged German tank weapons by 300 to 500 m, allowing Devil tractors to engage from positions where German tanks couldn't effectively return fire. The psychological impact on German tankers intensified during the Bulge. Unrates, Verkau, commanding a Panther with the 2nd Panzer Division, encountered an M12 near Huaz on December 20th. His account, recorded in a letter discovered in East German archives in 1992, revealed the German perspective. "We advanced through heavy fog toward American positions. Intelligence said the town was lightly defended. We expected easy victory. Then the Devil tractor fired from a ruined church. Our lead Panther exploded." The 2nd Panther tried to reverse, but the fog made visibility impossible. Another explosion, then another. In 30 seconds, we lost 4 Panthers to a weapon we couldn't even see. The sound was different. Heavier than normal anti-tank guns. We called for artillery support, but none was available. We withdrew, leaving our dead behind. Later, we learned one American tractor with a naval gun had destroyed an entire platoon. By the end of December, M12 units in the Ardennes had destroyed over 200 German tanks, confirmed by wreckage examination. The cost was 31 Devil tractors lost primarily to artillery, air attack, or close assault by German infantry. The exchange ratio of nearly 7-to-1 represented exceptional performance for a weapons system that cost $1,200 per unit, excluding the gun. German intelligence assessments from late December 1944 showed growing alarm about the M12's proliferation. A report from Army Group B to OKW, the Wehrmacht High Command, stated, "Enemy M12 gun carriages have proven highly effective in defensive operations. The weapon's naval armament provides overmatch capability against all German armor. Most concerning, American industrial capacity allows unlimited production. Captured American documents indicate over 1,000 units produced. We cannot match this through conventional tank destroyer development." The German response was telling. Rather than develop similar weapons, which would have been simple given Germany's stockpiles of captured French and Soviet naval guns, the Wehrmacht attempted to counter the M12 through tactical adaptation. Units were ordered to avoid roads and villages where Devil tractors might be not positioned, to use artillery preparation before armor advances, and to employ infantry to clear suspected M12 positions. These countermeasures had limited effect. The M12's mobility, though modest, allowed rapid repositioning that negated prepared German responses. The lack of signature features made identification difficult until the weapon fired. Most critically, by late 1944, Germany lacked the artillery, ammunition, air support, and infantry strength to effectively suppress American defensive positions. The advance into Germany in early 1945 brought M12 units into urban combat, an environment where the weapon system's characteristics prove both advantageous and problematic. The slow speed and minimal armor made Devil tractors vulnerable in open city streets. However, when properly positioned in rubble or buildings, they became nearly indestructible bunkers mounting battleship-grade firepower. At Cologne, the first major German city captured by American forces, M12 units supported the infantry assault by engaging fortified buildings with naval high-explosive rounds. The ammunition designed to destroy ship superstructures created effects against urban structures that conventional artillery couldn't match. Single rounds would penetrate multiple floors, detonating inside buildings to collapse entire sections. The tactical employment evolved to reflect urban warfare requirements. M12 guns were positioned in ground floor rooms of captured buildings, firing through windows or blown-out walls. Crews would engage targets. then immediately repositioned to different buildings before German forces could respond. The tractors' agricultural appearance sometimes confused German defenders, who initially mistook them for civilian vehicles. Halman Friedrich V. Burr, defending Cologne with a battalion of mixed Wehrmacht and Volkssturm troops, described the psychological effect in a post-war interview. Americans attacked with everything: tanks, infantry, artillery, aircraft. But the weapons we feared most were those damn tractors with naval guns. They would appear in buildings we thought were empty, fire several rounds that would bring down entire structures, then disappear. We couldn't predict where they would be. We couldn't effectively engage them. They created terror among the Volkssturm, who weren't trained soldiers. Men would flee positions when they heard the deep boom of the naval guns. The crossing of the Rhine in March 1945 deployed M12 units and fire support roles during assault at Riggen, where American forces captured an intact bridge on March 7th. Devil tractors were among the first heavy weapons across positioning on the eastern bank to defend against German counterattacks. The 962nd Tank Destroyer Battalion, entirely equipped with M12 gun carriages, established defensive positions around the Remagen Bridge head within 6 hours of the crossing. When German forces attempted to destroy the bridge with armor and artillery, they encountered a defensive fire network where every approach was covered by naval guns firing from concealed positions. General Major Otto Hitzfeld, commanding Ellis's Sun Corps, tasked with destroying the Remagen Bridge, found his counterattacks defeated by American firepower he couldn't match. His March 10th report to Army Group B revealed the frustration. American defenses at Remagen include numerous heavy-caliber weapons, identified as M12 gun carriages. These weapons engage our armor at ranges where return fire is ineffective. Attempts to suppress them with artillery have failed due to their mobility and concealment. Bridge destruction is impossible while these weapons dominate the eastern approaches. Production of 12-gun motor carriages continued until May 1945, 1 week after Germany's surrender. The final total reached 1,417 units produced across 13 months from May 1944 to May 1945. At peak production in February 1945, Rock Island Arsenal completed 31 Devil tractors daily. The industrial achievement mirrored the weapon itself, simple, effective, and entirely American. The conversion process required minimal retooling. The components, tractors, guns, recoil systems, armor plates, came from existing production lines. The workforce, largely women and older men ineligible for military service, operated with efficiency that matched or exceeded pre-war industrial standards. The cost analysis revealed the M12's economic efficiency. Total program cost, including research, development, and production of 1,417 units, was $18.6 million. By comparison, the M10 Wolverine tank destroyer program cost $137 million for 46 units. The M12 delivered comparable anti-tank capability at roughly one-tenth the cost per unit. Post-war assessments by the Army Ordnance Department praised the weapon system while acknowledging its limitations. The M12 gun motor carriage represents successful emergency development of a highly effective anti-tank weapon. The system's advantages include low-cost, rapid production, devastating anti-armor capability, and versatility in multiple combat roles. Limitations include minimal armor protection, low speed, limited cross-country mobility, and vulnerability to indirect fire. Overall assessment: the M12 succeeded in its intended role and contributed significantly to Allied victory in Europe. German evaluations conducted after the war by American intelligence teams interrogating Wehrmacht officers revealed grudging respect mixed with bewilderment at American improvisation. General Lieutenant Fritz Berlin, commanding Panzer Division during the Normandy campaign, provided extensive commentary on American weapon systems, including the M12. The Americans approached warfare differently than we did. We designed purpose, built weapons for specific roles, that produced them in limited quantities due to resource constraints. The Americans converted whatever they had available into weapons, produced them in vast quantities, and overwhelmed us through material superiority. The M12 exemplified this approach. A civilian tractor, a naval gun, minimal engineering, yet it destroyed our best tanks. We couldn't conceive of using farm equipment as weapon platforms. They not only conceived it, they produced it and deployed it effectively. This difference in thinking cost us the war. The Devil tractor's combat record across 11 months of European warfare compiled impressive statistics. Confirmed tank kills 173 German armored vehicles. Probable kills additional 412. Fortifications destroyed 647. Bunkers, pillboxes, and strong points. Buildings reduced approximately 2,000 in urban operations. Friendly losses 191 M12 units destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Kill-to loss ratio 9.81 against German armor. These numbers don't capture the weapon's psychological impact. German soldiers feared the Devil tractors disproportionately to their actual numbers. The cognitive dissonance of being killed by farm equipment wielding naval weapons created terror that conventional anti-tank guns didn't produce. The unpredictability of where M12 units might be positioned forced German armor to approach every village, every hedger, every building with extreme caution, slowing advances and creating hesitation that American forces exploited. The human stories behind the statistics reveal the men who operated these unlikely weapons. Sergeant Raymond Mitchell, whose crew destroyed 8 German tanks near Carrington in the Devil tractor's first engagement, survived the war and returned to farming in Pennsylvania. He kept a photograph of his M12 on his office wall until his death in 1997. When asked about his wartime service, he would say simply, "I drove a tractor in France. It just happened to have a bigger gun than most." Corporal James O'Brien Mitchell's gunner became a shipyard worker in Boston after the war. His expertise with naval gunnery, learned in civilian employment, and applied to military service, represented the democratic mobilization that defined American warfare. Citizens became soldiers, brought their civilian skills to combat, then returned to civilian life, having changed history. The M12 program demonstrated several principles that influenced post-war American military development. First, improvisation using existing resources could achieve results matching or exceeding purpose, design systems. Second, cost-effectiveness mattered in weapon development. The ability to field 10 weapons for the price of one often outweighed individual platform superiority. Third, speed of deployment could be more valuable than perfection of design. These lessons shaped Cold War-era military procurement with varying success. The focus on multi-role platforms, rapid development cycles, and cost-per-unit efficiency all traced back to World War II programs like the M12. However, the unique circumstances that made the Devil tractor possible: surplus naval guns, established tractor production, urgent operational need, couldn't be easily replicated. Several nations attempted similar improvisations in post-war conflicts. During the Korean War, South Korean forces mounted surplus American artillery on agricultural tractors, creating crude but effective mobile fire support. The Israeli Defense Forces in the 1950s adapted French naval guns to modified tractors for coastal defense. Soviet-backed forces in various conflicts employed similar combinations of civilian vehicles and military weapons. None achieved the success of the original M12. The weapon system had emerged from a unique combination of available components, industrial capacity, tactical need, and operational environment. Attempting to recreate that success in different circumstances usually resulted in inferior results. The Devil tractors themselves, the 417 units produced, had varied fates after Germany's surrender. Approximately 600 units remained in Europe when the war ended. Most were scrapped or donated to Allied nations as military aid. The 5-inch guns were removed and either returned to Navy storage or cut up for scrap metal. The tractor chassis, still functional as agricultural equipment, were sold to European farmers for prices far below their military conversion costs. Some M12 units returned to the United States, where they were displayed at war bond rallies and military demonstrations before being decommissioned. A few examples survive in museums, testimony to one of the war's most unusual weapon systems. The United States Army Ordnance Museum at Aberdeen Proving Ground displays an M12 in original configuration, the same type of vehicle that terrorized German tankers in the Hedge of Normandy. The farmers who sold their tractors to the Army in 1944 for conversion to gun carriages probably never imagined their equipment would destroy Panther tanks and Tiger tanks in France and Germany. The agricultural industry's contribution to American military success extended far beyond food production. Tractors, trucks, and industrial equipment formed the backbone of American logistics, and in the M12's case, became weapons themselves. John Whittaker, the agricultural engineer who proposed mounting naval guns on tractors, received the Army-Navy E Award for Excellence in Production in October 1945. His citation read in part for innovative engineering that contributed directly to Allied victory through the development of the M12 gun motor carriage, demonstrating that American industrial creativity and agricultural technology could be successfully combined for military application. Whittaker returned to Deere and Company after the war, where he continued designing agricultural equipment until his retirement in 1968. He rarely discussed his military work, considering the M12 a logical solution to an obvious problem rather than a revolutionary innovation. This attitude, treating the extraordinary as ordinary, typified the American civilians who won the Second World War through innovation, hard work, and practical problem-solving. The legacy of the Devil tractor extends beyond its direct military impact. The weapon system proved that unconventional thinking could solve seemingly impossible problems. Faced with a shortage of purpose-built tank destroyers, American engineers didn't design new vehicles from scratch. They looked at available resources, civilian tractors, and surplus naval guns, and created a hybrid system that exceeded expectations. This approach, combining existing components in novel ways to achieve new capabilities, became a hallmark of American military innovation. From the famous Jeep, which combined automobile components into a revolutionary light vehicle, to the Liberty ship, which mass-produced merchant vessels using welding instead of riveting, American warfare emphasized creative reuse of industrial capacity. The Germans, despite their reputation for engineering excellence, couldn't match this flexibility. Their weapons development followed traditional paths: identify requirement, design optimal solution, produce in limited quantities. This process created weapons that were often technically superior to American equivalents, but arrived in insufficient numbers too late or at costs that couldn't be sustained. The contrast between a Panther tank and a double tractor illustrated this difference perfectly. The Panther, one of the war's finest tanks, represented cutting-edge German engineering, sloped armor, powerful gun, excellent optics, sophisticated fire control. It cost 117,000 Reichsmarks and required 44,800 hours of labor to produce. The M12, a tractor with a naval gun bolted on, cost $1,200 and required 16 hours to convert from civilian to military configuration. In direct combat at medium range, the Panther held every advantage except one. The M12's gun could destroy it with a single hit, while the Panther needed multiple hits or perfect shot placement to disable the Devil tractor. More importantly, America produced 417 M12 units, while Germany struggled to build 6,000 Panthers across 2 years of production. The mathematics of industrial war favored the side that could produce adequate weapons in overwhelming numbers over the side that produced perfect weapons in limited quantities. The Devil tractor proved this equation decisively. As the 75th anniversary of the M12's deployment approaches, historians continue discovering new accounts of the weapon system's impact. German unit histories, personal memoirs, and battlefield archaeology reveal engagements where Devil tractors changed outcomes. Each discovery adds detail to our understanding of how an improvised weapon became one of the war's most effective anti-tank systems. The men who served in M12-equipped units, now almost all deceased, left testimony that consistently emphasized surprise at what they were asked to do: drive tractors in combat, mount naval guns on farm equipment, engage German panzers with weapons designed to sink submarines. The absurdity of the concept dissolved in the reality of effectiveness. when a double tractor destroyed a 44-ton Panther with a single shot, questions about unconventional weapons design became irrelevant. The German soldiers who faced these weapons, those who survived, carried memories of terror at encountering the unexpected. Veterans interviewed decades after the war described their shock at seeing what appeared to be civilian tractors mounting battleship guns. The cognitive disconnect between a vehicle's appearance and its lethality created psychological trauma that combat against conventional weapons didn't produce. Oberg writer Klaus Richter, the Panther commander who witnessed the first M12 engagement near Mortain in August 1944, survived the war and immigrated to Canada in 1952. In a 1983 interview for a Canadian television documentary, he recounted his reaction to seeing the Devil tractor. "I thought it was a hallucination. Combat stress making me see things that couldn't exist. A tractor with a naval gun firing at panzers, destroying them like toys. Then my tank was hit. The explosion killed my crew. I was thrown clear, survived with burns and shrapnel wounds. As I lay in the field waiting for medics, I watched the tractor slowly drive away. Still looked like farm equipment. I realized then that we had lost the war. If the Americans could turn tractors into tank destroyers, they could turn anything into weapons. We couldn't match that creativity. This testimony captured the M12's ultimate significance. The weapons system represented more than tactical innovation or engineering improvisation. It symbolized a fundamental difference in how democratic and authoritarian systems approached warfare. The Americans asked, "What can we use to solve this problem?" The Germans asked, "What is the correct solution to this problem?" The first question led to Devil tractors destroying panzers. The second led to perfect tanks that couldn't be produced in adequate numbers. The story of when a farmer put a naval cannon on his tractor, and Germans called it the Devil tractor, is ultimately a story about American pragmatism defeating German perfectionism. It's about industrial democracy outproducing authoritarian command. It's about ordinary citizens, farmers, factory workers, engineers, sailors creating extraordinary weapons from ordinary components. The M12 gun motor carriage never achieved the fame of the Sherman tank, the glory of the P-51 Mustang, or the recognition of the B-17 Flying Fortress. It remained obscure, a footnote in most histories of the Second World War. Yet the 1,417 Devil tractors produced between May 1944 and May 1945 destroyed nearly 2,000 German armored vehicles, defended countless American positions, and proved that sometimes the best weapon is whatever works, regardless of how unconventional it appears. When American soldiers drove agricultural tractors, mounting naval guns into combat against the Wehrmach's finest panzers, they didn't just win battles. They demonstrated a truth that transcends military history. Creative thinking, practical improvisation, and willingness to attempt the unconventional can defeat superior technology, better training, and established doctrine. The Devil tractor won because it shouldn't have existed, because German tactical planning couldn't account for weapons that violated every category, because American ingenuity created solutions that German engineering couldn't counter. Today, the few surviving M12 gun motor carriages stand in museums as monuments to this principle. They remind us that victory doesn't always go to the side with the best weapons, but sometimes to the side with the best imagination. The farmers who sold their tractors, the engineers who designed the gun mounts, the factory workers who assembled the systems, the soldiers who drove them into battle. None of them could have predicted that their improvised creation would terrify German tankers and help win the war in Europe. But they did their jobs, solved their problems, and created something that changed history. The Devil tractor's lesson endures. When faced with impossible challenges and limited resources, sometimes the answer isn't design the perfect solution. Sometimes it's to bolt a naval gun onto a tractor and see what happens. In 1944, what happened was 1,873 destroyed German tanks and the slow, steady advance of American forces across Europe, supported by the most unlikely weapon of the Second World War, the thunder of 5. Naval guns firing from John Deere tractors echoed across the battlefields of France, Belgium, and Germany, a sound that symbolized American industrial might, creative improvisation, and democratic determination. German soldiers who heard that sound and survived never forgot it. Neither should we. The Devil tractor proved that sometimes the best weapon is the one nobody expects, and sometimes a farmer's tractor can change the course of history.